Shea-Hey ropes a Genesis Cabrera fastball deep into the Minneapolis night to give the A's a 4-2 lead in the 10th, and it holds as the final score as the Twins drifted even further from 500 in the loss. Let's talk about it on the Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to the Locked On Twins postcast. I am your host, Brandon Warne. I'm rolling solo in this one as Luke Inman is off. I will have you covered also Thursday afternoon after the matinee, see how the Twins finish off their 3-game set against the A's. Again, thanks for making Locked On Twins and the Locked On Twins postcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching right now, feel free to be active in the comments. Make sure to click like, make sure to click subscribe. We got a lot to get you here. Shea-Langolier's doing Shea-Langolier's things in extras with a homer off Genesis Cabrera. Twins fall to 4 and 9 in extra innings. A's 6 and 4. We're going to cover it all, though. Bailey Ober, how did Bailey Ober look? He had a little bit different of a repertoire, which is something to look at. A lot of whiffs. We'll talk, too, about JT Ginn. Shea-Langolier's also hitting, Tyler Soderstrom also hitting a home run. I always get those two guys confused. But A's, lots of good hitters at the top of the order. Twins and A's, by the way, also combined for an absolutely dreadful, let's see here, 3 for 24 with runners in scoring position. So not a great night for either team. As a result, Twins only 2 runs on 11 hits. Let's talk about Bailey Ober. So Bailey Ober, 18 swings and misses on 82 pitches. A lot of changeups. 26 changeups tonight against 23 four-seam fastballs. If we're to go in and look, he also threw, I think what also stood out to me was 13 sweepers touching 90.7 velocity all over the sorry, that's exit velocity. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Ober, though, velo down, but he did kind of scrap the fastball. As I said, 32% usage on the changeup, 16% on the sweeper. The sweeper, 13 pitches, 6 swings and misses. So we'll keep an eye, too, on if that means he might be changing some things up in his repertoire. The last time Ober threw that high of a percentage of sweepers was 17.7% on June 28th in a loss to the Tigers. Changeup usage, by the way, 31.7%. That is his 7th most in a game this year. So dropping the four-seam fastball usage considerably. That was down to 28%, his second lowest in the game this season. You'd have to go back to Cleveland in May, when Ober went only 3 innings and had a fastball usage rate of 26.2%. So definitely seeing some different things from Bailey Ober. And if you're watching or listening in the comments, I'd love to hear from you if you think there's any chance Bailey Ober is, let's say, quote unquote, back. Because I thought, for the most part, he looked solid. The fastball velocity down again is concerning. But adapting with more breaking balls, with more off-speed pitches, does show some adaptability that I'm not sure if we saw when he was dealing with the issues that led to him going on the IL. Call it an injury, call it whatever you want. But I think Ober is starting to get I'm not going to go that route. I think he's starting to get over the issues that were plaguing him before the injured list stint. So again, Ober, solid, 18 whiffs, 26 changeups, 13 sweepers, got 6 whiffs on the changeup, 6 on the sweeper. The other 6 came off all different other pitches. But in general, I think also, too, if he can get better at locating the changeup and sweeper and have to make those maybe pitches you have to respect in later in counts, that's only going to make his fastball play up more again if he can't get that velo back to where it was. But again, we're going to be really watching. I wonder if he won't be one of those guys who goes off to the velo farm that Jake Odorizzi talked about a few years ago, and we'll see how that goes. Twins again fall to 4-9 in extra innings. Only the Reds at 3-8, Yankees 3-8, and Rockies at 1-5 are worse than the Twins in extra innings. So not exactly what you want to see. Twins, some questionable decisions when it came to base running. I liked the Twins are running the bases with a little more reckless abandon. Again, not that you should put yourself in undue risk of making outs on the bases, but if you're in a position where you're trying to see what guys are capable of and what guys are going to be fits for this team moving forward, running the bases in such a way allows you to see what guys are good at picking up tells on pitchers and that sort of thing. We saw some ugly base running. There were a couple of guys caught stealing. One of them, Lee, trying to break for third on a ball that he did not pick up off the catcher. And that's an important thing too, that the simple basics of taking an extra base are, if you don't see the ball, hold up. And I think Lee didn't see the ball at first and kind of guessed that it was further away from Langoliers than it was. You made the third out at third. We all know the cardinal sin that is, but it also took the bat out of the hands of Royce Lewis, who was pinch hitting for Cody Clemens. You put in a pinch hitter for that exact matchup, and then that gets taken away. So certainly frustrating. And for all the good things Brooks Lee has been doing in the last week or so, OPS over 900 in that time frame, there are still going to be some teaching moments, some learning moments, and we're seeing that. I think we're also seeing that, again, with the base running, the stealing and everything. Byron Buxton in the third inning doesn't take off for second, and Trevor Larnach ends up grounding into a double play. Ends the inning. Twins make an out at the plate on the contact play. I've been critical of the contact play at times this year, but the trade-off was Buxton on first base. So in general, because I think it was Outman coming home. It was, again, forgive me, the long-haired guy. So Outman, I think it was Outman because Fitzgerald had legged out that I think they called it a double at first and then switched it back to a single and then moved up on Bladay's throw. But great hustle play, too, by Fitzgerald. We have not seen Twins base runners run like that all season long. Nobody's taking risks on the bases, and not that that's a bad thing if you're a slow team, as the Twins were earlier in the year, but it was nice to see at least some sort of urgency running the bases. Again, something we haven't seen. But with the contact play, again, usually I'm critical of it. It was basically the trade-off of getting Byron Buxton on first, but Buxton, whether he didn't get a good look at Ginn's move or didn't get the steal sign, I assume he's got the green light whenever he wants to go, but didn't steal, ends up getting taken out in the double play, and Twins trail, and they don't score their 2 runs until the 5th inning when they scratch a couple across. It was just odd to see them running with such abandon in certain spots. And then also in the 9th, if Fitzgerald takes off, that Larnach hit, and again, there's some butterfly effect here too, but Larnach's hit to right field most certainly scores Fitzgerald with the winning run. Now, again, they pitch Larnach differently if Fitzgerald is on second as opposed to first. Also, there's no real proof that Fitzgerald is all that fast. I've looked at his numbers. I've looked at a couple of different things in the minor leagues, like a double-digit steal season a few years back. But in general, Fitzgerald gets thrown out at second, then it's all you took the bat out of the hands of Trevor Larnach, who's been solid against right-handed pitchers this year. So I'm not certain that Fitzgerald running there would have been the right play, but when they're running the bases as they did for the entire game, it just seemed weird to pull back there and pull back with Buxton in the third inning. And again, I'll say this. If Buxton has a green light and can go at his own leisure, at his own pace, at his own reconnaissance, and didn't, it's possible he didn't have a good read on Ginn, who Glenn Perkins said was slow to the plate. If Perkins knows that, I assume, Jace Tingler timing those things would also know that and pass it on. So for whatever reason, Twins don't run in a couple different spots. They do not pick up important runs in either of those innings and fall to the A's 4-2 in 10 innings. Again, Twins 4-9 in extras, one of the worst records in MLB. A's 7-4. Not bad for a team that's otherwise not all that great. Let's take our one and only pause here. When we come back, we will have a bit of a look more into Ober's night. We'll talk about the Luke Keishel's still hitting. We'll look at a bit too about how guys have fared since the trade deadline. We get so caught up in season numbers, but since the trade deadline, this is an appreciably different team. And I want to look at some stats and see, how the bullpen has shaken out here in the last couple weeks and a few other things. But first, a word. And that word is from Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with your friends or your family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly recognize or realize that you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the added stress. Plus, with the money you save on tickets, that's more merchandise, more food, or you can even bring more friends. If you have more friends, not exactly a problem I have, but you can do any of those things with the added savings on tickets, and Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually nosedive. They get lower as the first pitch comes. Also, you get last-minute deals, clear seat views. I love the seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Again, I love toggling that all-in pricing, making sure that I have not only the best price, but my price on the screen is my price at the end of the transaction. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are back here rocking and rolling. Twins lose 4-2 in 10, fall to 58 and 68 on the season. 10 games under, just not far off from the A's, who with the win are 58 and 70 as those odds get better for the Twins in the draft lottery. That's what it's come to, friends. Twins are now playing for space and a place in the draft lottery. With that said, again, Bailey Ober looked quite solid, I thought. 18 whiffs, more changeups and fastballs. So recognizing early that he didn't have the velocity he wanted with the fastball, and going also too with a sweeper. The sweeper getting 6 whiffs on 13 pitches. I think we need to keep an eye on that, because that is a pitch where the usage is still not particularly high. I think I said it was in the 15 to 16% range for this start, and it's the second highest he's had in any start this season. Certainly something he could up the usage on if it continues to be a successful offering for him. So we'll keep an eye on that. The Bearded Nightmare pitching as the season continues to wind down here. We are 116 games in. Not great with math, but I believe that means about 46 games left, about a quarter of the season. So we'll see how that goes, see how they make things work with bringing up a few guys too. Obviously, Mick Abel has looked tremendous down at AAA St. Paul. Twins do not have a starter announced for the finale yet. We'll see how that factors in. I don't know that anything's going to happen here as we're on the air if the Twins will announce anything. Possibly another bullpen game with someone like Thomas Hatch starting. Or, maybe they make a move down and get someone from St. Paul to get a look at. But we don't know that yet. We'll find out here, I'm sure, quite soon. Again, like the base running from Fitzgerald in the third inning, legging out what was then a double, got rolled back to a single on the throw in. But nice to see some urgency, seeing some guys knowing that they're playing for their futures on a team in transition. One thing I noticed before we get into the data and the stats, in Brooks Kriske's ninth inning, there was a pitch he threw, and I'm bringing it up here because I want to make sure it was I think it was the Schumann walk where there was a pitch. Yeah, it was pitch number 5 where Schumann walked. It was a 81.7 mile per hour splitter, and it hit the zone and was not called a strike. And I wondered at the time, and I still wonder now, if Ryan Jeffers had caught more of Brooks Kriske. Again, this is maybe the pitfalls of completely revamping your bullpen on the fly. Jeffers probably doesn't know how Kriske's splitter is going to dance on any given night or any given moment, just due to the fact that there's unfamiliarity. And I think that in that spot, it could have been much more troublesome, could have been much more of a big deal if it was a team that was in contention. Again, chicken and egg. They're not in contention. If they were in contention, Brooks Kriske's not throwing those spots. So I get it. But just something that I had noticed as far as these are the things that come up when you're a team learning on the fly. Brooks Lee gets thrown out trying to take third base, takes a little bit of the steam off how good he's been over the last week or so. But aggressive mistakes are better than complacent mistakes. And we've seen the Twins make, I think, a lot of both of those this year. I still think Genesis Cabrera is an interesting guy to keep an eye on. Giving up a home run to Shea Langoliers, certainly not making him any sort of unique spectacle. Langoliers has 16 home runs since the All-Star break. That's the most in MLB. Cabrera, not often you can find guys that throw that hard from the left side, 96, 97. I mean, it's going to come down to if he can miss bats, which at that velo you would expect him to, but can he have enough command? Is there something Pete Mackey can work on with him to get him there? Because it's not often that guys come along throwing like that. So I know he's over 30 and a lot of people are like, I'd rather get a look at Connor Prelip or literally pretty much anybody else. But I think Cabrera as a lesser leverage guy going into next year could be interesting. Now, all that said, it's a very good chance they non-tender or outright him at the end of the year. But I still think Genesis Cabrera is interesting, and I am not out on him because he had the audacity to give up a home run to a guy who has been scorching everyone for the last month. All right, let's look at some numbers here, because one thing that we need to kind of keep perspective on is that since the trade deadline, this is an entirely brand new team. The Twins 7-11 since the trade deadline. Pitching staff has been okay. The offense has been a lot of haves and have-nots. So it was, you've got guys who are really hitting. 6 guys with OPS numbers over 800 since the trade deadline. Now, again, there's guys with not a lot of service, or not service, but plate appearances, that sort of thing. And then you've got guys like Alan Roden who really struggled and then got hurt. Edouard Julien hasn't done much. Cody Clemens hasn't done much. Royce Lewis has not done much. But since the deadline, Twins have a 670 OPS. That's a 218, 288, 381 slash. Obviously not enough OBP, not enough runs, not enough of any of that stuff. But on the positive side, Luke Keeschel, 901 OPS. Matt Wallner, 886. 875 from Larnach, which I didn't realize Larnach was that high. Outman has bumped his up to 833. Certainly helps that all 3 of Outman's hits since joining the Twins are extra base hits. And actually, a friend pointed out, he has 3 hits with the Twins. He only had 4 hits his entire time with the Dodgers in the big leagues this year. I still think Outman could be an interesting player. Jeffers, 809 OPS, and then Ryan Fitzgerald at 808 and Brooks Lee at 766. So they got 7 guys who have hit solid to very, very good. Not that Outman or Fitzgerald got the biggest sample sizes, but on the pitching side of things, especially relievers, I'm curious to look at. Cody Funderburk has been working some big spots against lefties, has not allowed an earned run in 7 innings over 10 games since the deadline, but a 1.71 whip. So there's some question marks under the surface. He's not striking a ton of guys out, giving up hits. He's actually given up 9 hits in 7 innings. You add that to 3 walks, and that's why, a whip looks pretty shaky. So not as though Funder Down Under is completely, completely settled in as that lefty relief ace that maybe everybody is searching for after Danny Coulomb was traded. But it's still better than I think a lot of us expected. Twins on the whole have a 3.80 ERA. Their bullpen ERA, when I checked before this series, was lower than the Dodgers since the deadline, the Blue Jays since the deadline, and I believe it was the Rangers since the deadline. So 3 of the teams that the Twins traded relievers to had higher bullpen ERAs than the Twins. The Blue Jays were down near the bottom, even though Louis Varland has been very, very good for them. But again, Twins pitching staff in general, 3.80 ERA since the deadline, 1.33 whip. I think you'd take that. The home runs are a little bit up there, but we're getting a look at different guys. I think Justin Topa is showing that he should be in the mix to stick around. Obviously, Cole Sands is in that discussion. And then from there, it's a wide open race, whether guys like Travis Adams, whoever else, Pearson Ole, those guys are going to get long looks down the stretch here. We'll see if they're going to stick around and that sort of thing. But in general, we're talking about here Twins pitching better after the deadline, not hitting. So pretty similar to what they were doing when they had all the big guys, which is not that inspiring. But again, Twins actually 7-10 since the deadline. I believe I misspoke earlier. Still 7-10 are roughly the same as what the Astros are. But we're not going to play the Schadenfreude card right now. Again, Twins fall for 2. Genesis Career giving up a huge home run to Shea Langoliers, 16th since the break, leading all of MLB. Twins now 10 games under 500. We'll keep an eye on Ober's secondary pitches. We'll keep an eye on Luke Keeschel still hitting, and Brooks Lee as well. He doesn't know that he's the everyday shortstop, says Glenn Perkins, but I think that's pretty safe to say. Coming up in the matinee on Thursday, it's going to be Jack Perkins, as Glenn Perkins said, no relation, against shrug emoji. We don't know yet who is going to be pitching for the Twins. At least I have not seen yet. I assume we'll find out here in relatively short order. But thank you for hanging out with me, pinch hitting for Luke Inman, Brandon Warne again, of course. Check us out on the Locked On Twins podcast. It's me, it's Dave Brown. Also, make sure you check out MLB Game Night on Locked On, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. So that's it. Signing off for filling in for Luke Inman. It's Brandon Warne saying thank you so much, and we'll see ya after the game tomorrow afternoon.